Hi, I'm Aaron, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Healing with Aaron. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about anxiety, and this is a sensitive topic, so please take careful consideration before you watch this video. And I have to say that I am not a therapist, so if you are suffering from anxiety, please seek help and assistance from a healthcare professional. So, first of all, what is anxiety? So, anxiety or generalized anxiety disorder is feeling of stress and worry that affects your daily life, and it's difficult to control. And symptoms of anxiety or generalized anxiety disorder can include, difficulty sleeping, feeling restless, irritable, or finding it difficult to concentrate, feeling tired easy, feeling tense. You can also have, stomach problems, heart palpitations, feeling lightheaded or dizzy, and also, experiencing low mood and or depression. And like I said, I'm going to be talking about my own experience of anxiety, and I want to be honest and authentic. So I have to say that I still suffer from anxiety. The reason that I started this channel is to share my own experiences, what I've been through, in the hope that that could be healing. And I didn't realize that it would also be healing for myself, because it's very cathartic to sort of open up and find connection, with other people. But I still suffer from anxiety, and I want to be honest and authentic with you guys. So throughout my life, I've always experienced anxiety, which everyone does. There are periods and cycles that you go through in life where things can happen, you can go through things, you can feel anxious for a period, you can experience worry. But that's part of normal life, But for me, anxiety has affected my daily life, and it's made it difficult for me to cope with life in general. And I've also felt that sometimes things are out of my control, particularly when it comes to my work, my schedule, and my relationships with other people. So in terms of my day job, I have an amazing job where I'm in a leadership role, and I'm responsible for, more than one function. And then outside of work, I also have, my side hustle, which is my social media platforms. So I have my YouTube channel, I also have an Instagram account and a TikTok. So I feel like I'm working a 9-to-5 job, and then when I finish work, I also have my other jobs that I have to work on. So I feel like I'm working constantly non-stop. I'm spinning a lot of plates, and it can be stressful, and it makes me anxious. I feel overwhelmed, and then I feel anxious as a result of that, especially when I'm working on social media platforms where I'm trying to grow the platforms. So I'm cross-posting across different accounts, linking content, creating content, developing it, editing it in the background. I'm figuring it all out, how to do it myself, which has been really stressful in the beginning. I am incredibly grateful that I do have this platform, but now that I do, I feel this pressure that I have to deliver, because I'm a perfectionist. So this is a pressure that I've put onto myself, really. No one else is pressuring me to, to create content or to be here, but I'm trying to build something that is meaningful and also, put something positive out into the world. And in order to do that, I have to be authentic and honest. I care about what I'm trying to build here. And because I do care, it inherently makes me feel anxious, because if you care about something, that means that it matters to you. Something that I have realized that can affect my anxiety is the amount and quality of sleep that I get. I would say that in the past year, on average, I probably get around 5 to 6 hours sleep per night. And I know the amount of sleep that people have varies depending on the individual, but I'm aware that I'm probably not getting enough sleep. And on the nights where I don't get enough sleep, sometimes, I could actually have 4 hours sleep and then I still have to go about my day. It definitely makes my anxiety worse. It makes me more anxious. Another thing that I've realized which makes my anxiety worse is drinking coffee. Where I work, we have a espresso machine, and I didn't realize that over the course of the day, how much coffee I was actually consuming. And I was trying to sort of improve my anxiety. So one day I actually counted how many cups of espresso I was having. And across that day, I had 9 cups of espresso. So I was able to sort of identify the correlation between the amount of coffee I was consuming and the negative effect that it was having on my anxiety. So about 6 months ago, I would say, I stopped drinking coffee altogether. And I've noticed a big improvement in terms of how anxious I feel. And now, instead of coffee, I drink 2 drinks. I have in the morning a lion's mane mushroom, cordyceps and ashwagandha drink, which is like a coffee substitute. And in the afternoon, I will have a matcha tea. And replacing coffee with those 2 drinks has greatly improved my anxiety. For me, exercise is something that has been really beneficial at reducing my anxiety and, reducing how anxious I feel, because, exercise is known for releasing feel-good endorphins, which then takes your mind off of any worry that you might be feeling, particularly cardio. I have an indoor bike, so I cycle. I also like going for a walk in nature, in the park, where I can just sort of take my mind off any worry that I'm having, and then go back to my life feeling a lot calmer. Something else that's been really beneficial for me in managing anxiety is going to therapy, particularly cognitive reframing. So that is turning a situation around and looking at it from a different perspective, and then focusing on the things that you can control in any given situation and not the things that you can't control or you might feel that are out of your control. Because that's when, me personally, I can sort of spiral into feelings of anxiousness. I had a really bad day about 2 or 3 months ago where I had a really busy day at work. I was on the train home and I was thinking about all of the things that I had to do on my to-do list, just life stuff, and also worrying about all of the things on my to-do list from work. And I read my horoscope for that day on the train, and this might sound really trivial, and it said something negative. It said that basically that something bad was going to happen. And because I was so anxious because of work and things outside of work, that really small thing tipped me over the edge into panic, because I was already worrying, and then I was like, oh my God, something bad is going to happen. So yeah, that shows you how anxiety can affect me and push you from a state of worry into one of panic, which is not good for you. Since I had weight loss surgery, my stomach size has been drastically reduced, which means that I have to eat regularly. I have to eat little and often. So I eat on average 5 to 6 meals a day. And that involves a lot of organization and planning beforehand, because I have to eat regularly. And also, once I have food, I have to wait 30 minutes before I can drink water. And then after I've drank water, I have to wait 30 minutes before I'm allowed to eat another meal. And all of that involves a lot of planning, which can be quite stressful, particularly when you have a busy life like I do. So that's another element that adds worry in my head, because if I don't eat enough across the course of a day, I can get low blood sugar, I can go into health issues, not just in the short term, but also in the long term, because I have vitamin and mineral deficiencies, and I'm also slightly anemic. So that's another element for me that adds stress and worry, and also contributes to my anxiety. I had a bad moment a few months ago where I hadn't eaten enough across the course of a day, and I was out in a busy shopping centre, and I could feel that I had low blood sugar, and I felt dizzy, I felt faint, my heart was racing, I had heart palpitations. So all I could do was sit down in the shopping centre on a bench and sort of do deep breathing exercises and wait until I could eat again, and wait until I felt better enough to get up. So for me, the level of organization and meal planning that comes with my new body also adds a level of stress and anxiety to my life. because, eating becomes a bit of a chore, really, when you have to plan everything in advance. A few months ago, I did a psychometric test for work, which is a detailed personality test. And you get this report back at the end, which is quite lengthy. And work did this because I work as part of a wider team, and it was a good exercise for people to work better together. And once I got my detailed report back, it actually said that I have a lot of the hallmarks for autism, specifically high functioning autism, which used to be known as Asperger's. And once I got that report back and I read through it in detail, at first I was surprised and shocked. And once I actually digested that information, I was quite sad, because I did recognize a lot of what is said there in the potential that I could have autism. And I have to say, I do have a family history of autism. I have two close relatives who have been formally diagnosed with autism. And I sat down and had a conversation with my mother, and I was quite sad, really, because I feel like if I knew this information beforehand, throughout the course of my life, it would have helped me understand myself better. But, you can only do what you can do with the information that you're equipped with at the time. And autism is very closely linked with anxiety. People who do have autism are generally very anxious. And I need to follow up with a formal diagnosis for autism, which I will do, but I basically know that I have it now. And it was most likely that I was masking my autistic traits throughout my life, and masking is consciously or unconsciously hiding traits which are associated with neurodivergent conditions. So that can be suppressing behaviors, eye contact, mimicking social cues, and overthinking social interactions, which is something that I've definitely done so that I can just sort of fit in to society. And in the past, I've definitely suffered from social anxiety. Because I now know that I may have autism, it's helped me make sense of a lot of things in life, particularly when it comes to my relationships with other people. I've often wondered why I felt drawn to certain types of people, and that can be a friendship, or that can be, a romantic connection. I've always wondered, why does this same type of person keep coming into my life, but in a different body? And, I've met a lot of people who also have ADHD and autism. And what I've realized now is that I've recognized those neurodivergent traits in myself, in other people. Especially when something happens in a relationship or a friendship with another person and know like, oh, it's because they were very similar to me. Have you ever met someone before where you felt like an instant connection with them and you've got on really well, really quickly, or you fell in love with someone overnight, and now I'm like, oh, it's because I was looking back in a mirror, basically, at that person. They were a reflection of me, which has helped me to sort of make peace with my past and a lot of things that have happened to me. Something else that has helped me reducing and managing my anxiety is focusing on the things that I can control, especially when you feel like life is out of your control. What can you focus on in the moment? And also focusing on one thing at a time, you know, practicing compassion and self-care, taking care of yourself. And also when it comes to interactions with other people, reminding myself that the only thing that I can control in my life is myself and how I show up in situations, because no matter how hard you try, you're never going to be able to control other people, because we all see life differently through our own perspective and our own lens, and we all make our own decisions at the end of the day. All I can control is myself and my own behavior. I also practice gratitude daily. So I list all of the things that I'm grateful for in life, because I have a very good life with so many amazing things and so many amazing people in my life who've always been there for me and always helped me, and who I look up to as mentors, really, because they've had such a rich life experience, particularly from older people and older women. And I always speak to them about life just to see what I can learn and what I can take away from it and apply that to my own life. The final thing I want to say for me is that, you know, going to therapy and trying to get to the root cause of why I feel so anxious about so many different things is that I feel anxious because I actually care about these things that I'm trying to do or I'm trying to achieve. And that helps me a lot, because I remind myself that I am a good person and I actually am invested and I actually care about what I'm trying to do. So that does actually relieve my anxiety in the moment, because, you know, if I didn't give a shit, then I wouldn't feel anxious at all. So the last thing I want to say is that if you do suffer from anxiety, please seek help from a healthcare professional, you know, from a licensed therapist. I hope that you have found what I've shared meaningful. Thank you for watching. Take care.